The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Matt Boitner.
I'm Zachary Owen Turner, and today we're talking about Revenge of the Sith 20th Anniversary re-release, the Kathleen Kennedy retiring, leaving Lucasfilm, ? And we watched Caravan of Courage, considered maybe one of the worst Star Wars films, but a little spoiler, I rather liked it. But before we get into all that, Matt, how was your week?
My weeks were great. We're back after a hiatus. And so I had 2 weeks that were really, really good. And it is fun that we're back for episode 30. We've been at this for 30 episodes, and we're not stopping anytime soon. But as to the weeks that I was talking about, I had very eventful life weeks on top of eventful Star Wars weeks. I need to be kind of, emotional and vulnerable for a moment, but I experienced... this sounds more dramatic than it was, but I experienced failure. I stared into the face of failure, not this two weeks ago, because I tried for the first time to run a marathon, and I failed.
Oh no!
At 22 and a half miles, I hit the wall. The wall is a real thing, and I got to the point that I couldn't even walk anymore. But the funny part of the story was that I looked up at where I was. The Cowtown Marathon is in town where I live, in Fort Worth, right? And I was like, oh, I'm about 20 minutes from our apartment, like by car. And so I called Jenny, and I was like, hey, come get me. And she was like, but you're not done. And I was like, funny thing, I am. So go ahead and come pick me up. And so, you know, it sounds stupid and first world problemsy to say that I experienced failure when I still covered 22 and a half miles, but I set out to run a marathon, and my body failed me. That's fine. I have already signed up for the December Dallas Marathon, and I am training not with dark side rage, but I guess with light side focus for the next 10 months. And then the reason we didn't record last week was at 2:30 in the morning, my condensation alarm on my AC unit started to go off, and we had to wait for the maintenance people to come. But positive weeks still in my real world stuff before I get into my Star Wars-y stuff. I actually went to Oklahoma City.
Oh, cool.
Over this last weekend. One of my former students, shout out Hannah Baker, was one of the lead roles in Waitress at Lyric Theater Company in Oklahoma City. And so I got to go to Zach and my old college stomping grounds and have a really out-of-body experience watching someone that was one of my primary students now go on to perform in a lot of the same places that I've performed. She's going to OCU. I don't know if I told you that,
cool.
Zach.
How are we that old?
Hey, man. But it was really, really cool getting to see her perform on that stage. And, just the world is small, and it will never stop being small. But as for how Star Wars found me...
Before that, did you get Big Truck Tacos?
Oh, I did get Big Truck Tacos.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
The other thing that I also got, just shout out to Oklahoma City small businesses, I went to Tucker's Onion Burgers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was curious, but here's the bad news. I was curious. I was like, is this place as good as I remember, or was it 10 years ago, and I hadn't had a lot of food yet? And either it was an off day for Tucker's, or it was 10 years ago, and I hadn't had a lot of food yet, because it was not great. And I was kind of like, the fries were good, the burger was all right. So, but Big Truck still hits, still awesome.
Gotta get the Flaming Lips. If you're listening in Oklahoma City, go to Big Truck Tacos, get the Flaming Lips taco.
Get the Flaming Lips, and get the Fifth Amendment.
Oh, yeah.
Big Truck Taco. I'm not going to explain what we're talking about, because if you know, you know. But Star Wars found me in many ways. I bought a physical book for the first time in years.
Cool.
I got Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear. Have I started reading it? No, but I will. It's a big, thick book, which means it might take me like a year to read it, but I will. It is kind of an escape from real-world politics into Star Wars politics, and they line up with a lot of things that are happening right now, and that's all I'm going to say. But I also, last thing on how Star Wars found me this week, I got to play the Star Wars role-playing game again. I got my group together. This is that same altered universe campaign, altered by them, where the players stopped the Clone Wars, but then, wouldn't you know it, I think I talked about earlier in another episode on the show that Darth Maul's still out there.
Yeah.
Darth Sidious is still out there. They're still doing things. And as the galaxy has moved on, and with no Clone Wars, Palpatine's term as Chancellor has ended. Padme Amidala has got elected because she was very forefront in stopping the Clone Wars. So altered things happening, wouldn't you know it, Darth Maul has appropriated what remains of the clone army and what remains of the separatist forces, and the Inquisitors are around, same as they are in canon, and has launched a campaign against the Galactic Republic. And to keep from being wiped out, the players had to reactivate the Trade Federation droid army so that the Republic would have an army. And we have begun a different war in this altered Star Wars universe, but Palpatine's not the Chancellor, so it's all very... He's still the puppy master, as I called him last week. But that was my weeks and my Star Wars weeks. Zach, how was your world and your Star Wars world?
Yeah, busy weeks, just a lot going on. About to go to a family reunion, so we're just, prepping for all of that. But
cool.
The way Star Wars has been finding me lately is I am almost done with Rise of the Red Blade, the book about the rise of the Inquisitors, and I'm at the point where the lead is now an Inquisitor, and it is lining up with the Charles Soule Darth Vader comic run, so I keep on having to pause and be like, okay, hold on, let me look up this page, because I know where we are and I've seen it, but now I'm getting more context, so I want to go back and read the comic. But yeah, so I'm gearing towards the end. We're on her home planet, and so
right,
pretty cool stuff. But also just the fact that the lead's home planet is a planet in Star Wars that has no technology. There's no droids, there's no ships. They're just like a normal technology light world, which is something I don't think we've ever seen in Star Wars, which I thought was really cool. And just getting more thoughts about the Inquisitors. I love the Inquisitorius, and it's so evil and weird and cool, and so that's how Star Wars has been finding me.
Love it. Well, as for how Star Wars is going to find all of us very soon, in theaters for 1 week is going to be The Revenge of the Sith for the 20th anniversary. I believe, I had those dates. Let me look at it. It's going to be in theaters starting April 25th. I was hoping that they would do May 25th, because that is the actual 20th anniversary
of
this movie coming out, or May the 4th. But I think it's that they want to tie in with Star Wars Celebration, that it's shortly after that. So I'm excited about this. This is the first midnight showing I have ever been to, that I ever went to.
Cool.
Was The Revenge of the Sith. Lance and I talked about it on the show. We were there together. Lance and I will be there again watching this, because we live 30 minutes away from each other. Zach, if you could drive down to Texas from New York, then come on!
All right, 16 hours. I'll be there.
But yeah, I'm very, very excited. Zach, are you going to go see this in the theater?
Probably. I saw Phantom Menace recently. I guess that was last year. In the theater. So I'll probably go and see this one too. The problem I have is I work many nights, and so if there's not a early matinee, or if it's not on one of my 2 days off, then maybe not. But we'll see. I would love to, if the ticket prices aren't then $50 for 2 tickets. So.
That's the thing. But to tie into Revenge of the Sith and this podcast, we will have a special dropping at some point in the next month. Mm-hmm. It'll be before the show comes out. We're going to do a commentary track for Revenge of the Sith. So, not that I'm expecting you to spend $25 on a ticket to then put us in your ears while you watch the movie, but if you've seen the movie 1,000 times and you want to see it with us, put one headphone in and watch it while we will talk about it. So our first commentary track for the podcast will be dropping soon.
Second commentary track.
Yeah, if you count. I mean, I feel like
We
the holiday
watched it.
special, we did watch it, but that wasn't a commentary track as much as it was a reaction.
True.
You know what I mean? That was a first-time watch-along. But for this, we're going to mute the movie.
Yeah.
And we've seen it 1,000 times, and we'll be talking about our insights and our experiences with this film. But I want to talk for a second about the Star Wars buffet that we're going to get in April. Because April 18th to 20th, Star Wars Celebration Japan happens. We will not be in attendance, but the following week we will break down all the news right here on The Force of Others.
It'll be many news.
It'll be so many news. And the thing is, now that I look about it, it's not even in April that we're getting a buffet. It's in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We're getting 9 days. We're getting a buffet because April 18th to 20th, Star Wars Celebration Japan. April 22nd, the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2. April 25th, The Revenge of the Sith comes back to theaters. And April 29th, the next 3 episodes of Andor Season 2.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of Star Wars in 9 days. And again, when people like to complain about franchise fatigue and all that stuff, I do get it. That is a lot of unproductivity and time-wasting stuff in terms of the grand scheme of things and your like financial well-being. But that's also a lot of fun to be had in a really short amount of time, and I am very, very excited about that. It's going to be a good April for us Star Wars fans. But as for what us Star Wars fans have been talking about on the internet for basically a solid week, I'm going to hand the reins over to Zach for a second.
Well, it is Kathleen Kennedy has announced that she is leaving Lucasfilm, but also maybe not leaving Lucasfilm. But either way, she is handing off the reins to another person, most likely to succeed her as head of Lucasfilm. They have started the process to find the next Kathleen Kennedy. She has a lot going on until she leaves, and it has sparked much debate on her tenure in Star Wars, and she, I think, might be the most controversial figure in Star Wars, more so than The Last Jedi. A lot of just negativity coming her way, and we have some hot takes to add that might add some happiness to it. But I'll throw it over to you first, Matt. What are your thoughts on all this?
So the thing about it is, if you have a life and you don't know, about a week ago, a bunch of news dropped, leaks, what have you, from what started as leakers and then verifiable news sources that Kathleen Kennedy was leaving Lucasfilm. And the internet lit up. Yeah. And then several days later, Kathleen sat down with Deadline and gave this clearing the air monologue where she laid out the slate, everything that they're working on, and that she's like, yeah, I'm going to leave eventually, but not right now. Yeah. Maybe we'll have an announcement in a couple months or a year or what have you. But the thing about it is, there are so many people that absolutely hate her. The nature of being a leader is that you are then responsible, at least visually responsible, for the wins and losses of your company. And if it is a popular company that you run, or a popular thing that you run, your losses are going to be blamed on you. And most of the time your wins are not. And I think that is what she has, that her having to deal with that is stupid. And I think that people saying that she has been a travesty to Star Wars is stupid. Has her tenure been perfect? Absolutely not.
No.
Force Awakens made $2 billion. By the time we got to Rise of Skywalker, it made $1 billion. Now,
but it still made $1 billion.
Exactly. And you look at every trilogy and every franchise ever, they all make less money than the first one. Especially when it was the same with the original trilogy. It was definitely the same with the prequels. It was no difference here. Star Wars Returns, everybody loses their minds. The middle one doesn't do very well, and the third one does a little better, but that's not quite it. But to say that she is either amazing and infallible or the worst thing that's ever happened to Star Wars is stupid. Mm-hmm. Those are simple minds trying to make a complex situation simple. Because she's going to be replaced eventually, because she's 71 years old. There are so many people online that are acting like they're, get ready, Nate, Nostradamus for predicting, in heavy air quotes, that a 71-year-old human being is going to retire. That is the stupidest thing I've ever had to put my eyes on. Also, she will be replaced eventually.
She has also said that she's not retiring when she leaves Lucasfilm. She will die making movies. So,
right.
Not retiring. Just leaving Lucasfilm after leading it for almost a decade.
More than a decade.
Yeah.
More than a decade. She took over in June 2012.
Yeah.
I remember going, why would she take over in June 2012? And then I started to hear Star Wars analysts going, we're getting a sequel trilogy. And I was like, there's no way. And everything they were saying was, why would she leave her own production company to take over Lucasfilm? Mm-hmm. We're getting more movies. And I was like, that's crazy. And 4 months later, it got announced. But anyway, the thing about her replacement, whoever it is, whether they will be a improvement or not great, right? We can assume some things about this replacement. One of which being, this replacement will not have produced Jurassic Park, E.T., The Sixth Sense, Lincoln, Hook, and that's not counting the hundreds of associate or executive producer gigs that Kathleen Kennedy has had.
Yeah.
Because I don't care who you are or what you have to say about this, to say that she is not one of the most successful film producers of all time is incorrect.
She is arguably the most successful producer of all time. I mean,
at least in modern cinema.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, not even the ones that you mentioned, but like Goonies, Gremlins, Schindler's List, The Flintstones. Even though it's not Flintstones might not be a great movie, but Twister is a fantastic movie. She is Signs, Ponyo, if you're a Miyazaki head, like Curious Case of Benjamin Button, like all just hits. And yeah, sure, she has The Last Airbender, but like on a career that is as long and as successful, you're gonna have ups and downs, and you got to think about it. She took over in 2012, so yes, she's responsible for The Last Jedi. She's also responsible for Rogue One. Yes, she's responsible for the Acolyte if you don't like it. She's also responsible for Andor. She is a success. You can't argue that she's not a success.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, what a producer does is not what a lot of people think a producer does. And there are different ways to go about it. And, okay, caveat. I have never been on a big budget film set, so everything that I know is from hearsay. But what it seems like a producer does is that they're the money person.
Yeah.
They're not a story person. It is their job to work between the studio and the creator to try and make everybody happy. Mm-hmm. Right? We cannot forget that Disney bought Lucasfilm and then said, Episode 7 comes out in 2015.
Yeah.
And that was 3 years away. And they wanted summer 2015. And JJ was like, no, you got to do at least summer 2016. And they said, well, it comes out in 2015, so what about December? And he was like, fine. And they were doing everything they could to get Star Wars back into the summer.
Yeah.
That hurt Solo. That almost hurt Rise of Skywalker because they were trying to have it come out in summer 2019.
Yeah.
Not December 2019. And she got all of these movies done. Right?
Yeah.
Now, yeah. There's all the stuff of movies get announced and then they go away. That's not her doing. She's not the one that's leaking films.
That's also
right?
the process of making films.
That's the process of making films. And when you have a brand like Star Wars, when some intern finds out that Sean Levy interviewed to make a Star Wars movie, they're going to drop that story because it's going to get a massive amount of clicks.
Yeah.
Right? She does not get to sign off on everything. Her job is to make things happen. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I see, it's important to remember, George Lucas handpicked her to run his company.
Yeah.
She was the only choice that he had, and he said that. And with all this revisionist history right now, that George Lucas is perfect and the prequels are infallible and everybody always liked them, which is not the case. I know that there are people that are going to say, yeah, but she stabbed him in the back because she didn't use his treatments for the sequels. And here's the thing, guys. Every single one of you that point that out would have stabbed him in the back too, because his sequel trilogy ideas were weird. His sequel trilogy ideas were the movies that we got, plus the micro-universe and the Wills being in charge of free will. It was going to double down on midichlorians, and I don't care what anybody says. even in 2012, ain't nobody that liked midichlorians. And if you did, you were weird. If you were like me, you were weird for liking them. And it was normal to get absolutely trashed if you said you liked that stuff.
Yeah.
So the volume of production that Lucasfilm has created under her tenure is massive. And I've got one last hot take. I'm looking right down the barrel for this. Watch. 15 years from now, this generation will be grown. They'll be asking for her to come back. And everyone will hate whoever is who is in charge at the time. Just count it. I promise you that is going to happen. Kathleen Kennedy is a legend. Stay mad.
Yeah.
How about that? That'll make them mad.
Well,
we're going to clip that for sure.
Speaking of good things Kathleen Kennedy continues to do, she, in her tell-all, she's working with Bob Iger and Alan Fine to find a replacement. Of course, Dave Filoni is the hot take, the favorite, but we'll see if that happens. But she is producing a lot of movies at the moment, including she has confirmed that Simon Kinberg is planning a trilogy, which is rolling out fast and furiously and has gone exceptionally well. She added, "He's literally going to script as we speak. We'll see something probably around June. We're really excited about where that's headed. This is the next iteration, the new saga that moves us into the future." All of these movies she talks about are post Episode 9, so we're moving forward, y'all, into the next wave of Star Wars. Sean Levy's Star Wars, starring Ryan Gosling, is also in the future. It's all post Episode 9. Sean's is a standalone Star Wars story that'll take place post 9, maybe 5 or 6 years out. And she teased, and Mandalorian really stands on its own because there we're dealing with a whole other era in the New Republic. We have other development going on in that space as well. So that's the space that we're pretty much focused on right at the moment, because obviously with Mandalorian, we have a pretty good sense of where that's going. And with this, it's all pretty much new characters. We may bring some of the characters back from the sequel saga, but pretty much new characters. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, she said, "I keep on waiting for Taika Waititi, and he is working with another writer now. He's so busy. I love him. I think if we ever do get a script from Taika, it's going to be fantastic. I already saw a first act that I love, but tying him down, it's tricky," which everything I've ever seen about Taika Waititi, that tracks.
Yeah. So lots to chew on there.
Yeah.
The only other thing that she did say for sure is that Sean Levy's film goes into production soon.
Yeah.
That's the next one that they're making. And so there's all of that. Sean Levy's got a movie that's starring Ryan Gosling, and if she said it, like, it's not just a leak or a rumor like we thought it might be. Like, that's happening. And for them to say it's about to go into production, again, these things could always change. They brought Ron Howard in and replaced, I'm forgetting their name, Phil Lord and Chris Miller on Solo halfway through production. Things can always change, but that's happening. That's moving forward. I'm curious about the Simon Kinberg trilogy. I've said it before on the show. My hot take about Simon Kinberg is that when you look at his career, he's got a lot of hits. He's also got some misses. What worries me is it seems the more creative control that he has directly over the project, sometimes the worse the movie gets. What he's had the most creative control over, what he wrote and directed, was X-Men Dark Phoenix, which is pretty much commonly known as the worst X-Men movie.
Yes, but it's also a big studio that's going to have lots of fingers in the pot. They've also replaced writers halfway through projects. That's true, but he had... So I've never seen a quote come out from him about how he got creative control taken away. Like, that was his movie, and I watched it going, uh-oh. Like, oh no, this is unfortunate. So he is... I'm not trying to deny his talent. He was part of Star Wars Rebels season 2 through 4. Right, and I know that he gets Star Wars, but I'm trepidatious about, I don't know what I'm wax-offing with my hands. You got to
right
remember
now.
that also Dave Filoni is still chief creative officer, or whatever
That's
it
true.
is. So there's checks and balances, and the last time they worked together, there was Star Wars Rebels, which is considered some of the best Star Wars. So
yeah. So speaking of Filoni, the last kind of thing I got to say about all this, and then I'll give it back to you. You see a lot of the worst people on the internet celebrating that Kennedy is quote unquote getting let go and Filoni's going to take over. I don't think Filoni's ever going to be the president of the company. He does not have the business background. He is in my opinion, the perfect spot.
Yes.
He's the chief creative officer. That is where he should be.
Yes, I agree.
I think her eventual replacement is going to be some business exec we have never heard of. Ever.
Like when Safran took over DC, I was like, who?
Yeah, like, it'll be someone like that.
Yeah.
And Filoni will continue to be the James Gunn.
Yeah.
Right? And there will be some up-and-comer businessy person that'll keep greasing the money.
Somebody that we just didn't realize has produced, some of the best movies of all time. Like when Kennedy, because I didn't know who Kathleen Kennedy was until she took over Lucasfilm, and then you look at her tenure and you're like, holy crap, you worked on everything in both my parents' childhood and my like...
Well, yeah, and just the fact that she was Steven Spielberg's go-to producer.
Yeah.
For people to say that she's trash is stupid.
Yeah.
It is a dumb thing to say. Anyway. But, so, speaking of...
controversial Star Wars.
Speaking of dumb things, we said it when we watched the holiday special, and we are making good on it. We are on a quest on this podcast to find the worst Star Wars movie ever made. And we are continuing that quest with The Caravan of Courage. Is a 31-year-old made-for-TV movie. We're going to break all of it down for you, but first I got a happy little intro if you have not seen this thing. It was a 1984 made-for-TV movie. Takes place entirely on the moon of Endor and features the Ewok struggle to help two young human siblings as they search for their missing parents. I didn't know this. The film was given a limited theatrical run, but premiered on November 25th, 1984 on ABC.
Wow.
ABC had approached George about making a television show, and that would cost too much money. And so he was going to make a short special, and they said, well, if you can get it out to 2 hours, we'll put it on the Sunday night movie, which is a thing that apparently used to happen before you and I existed. And so this was an event.
Yeah.
And you can argue whether or not it should have been. But some behind-the-scenes stuff. I thought this was really cute. During the shoot, Lucasfilm gave the two lead teenage actors in the film, Eric Walker and Warwick Davis, their own cameras to use between takes, calling themselves W&W Productions. The two boys recorded their own mini-documentary of their production of the film, which apparently was uploaded 30 years later to Walker's YouTube channel. I looked and I can't find it, which I was very disappointed about. And then I thought this last fun note before we get into our actual review. Prior to 2021, Disney had announced no plans to add the Ewok movies to Disney+. Eric Walker eventually started a petition for Disney to add them, and they were added to Disney Plus on April 2nd, 2021, where Zach and I watched them, and you can watch them now.
Yeah.
So, opening thoughts. Zach, what are your opening thoughts on The Caravan of Courage?
Yeah, so I went into this with really, really, really low expectations. This movie is sometimes referred to as the Caravan of Garbage, but I would like to say that it is not garbage. I rather enjoyed it. I thought it was better than what I thought it was going to be. Does it have problems? Yes. But I feel like the large part of it is actually pretty good quality stuff. I will go into our likes when we get there. But I was surprised by this movie, I will say.
Right on.
We'll go into likes and dislikes. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I expected to, like the holiday special, be like, man, can I just turn this off? But there was a plot and, characters that I liked, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can follow this. And it finished, and I was like, all right, that wasn't anything crazy, and I rather enjoyed it. So,
Well,
Matt, go ahead and shit on it.
well, there must always be balance in the Force. I went in with low expectations, and this movie met those low expectations for me. It happened for me. I do have likes. I'm not only a negative Nancy. There were things that I actually quite liked about it, and there was a lot of stuff that I didn't like at all. But hit us, Zach. Hit it. Let's, as always on The Force of Others, we're gonna start with our positives and then have our dislikes. But Zach, hit him with your likes for the Caravan of Courage.
First of all, production quality is very good on this movie. For a made-for-TV movie, this does not feel like a Star Wars made-for-TV movie in the way that the holiday special did. The holiday special, you had like fake green carpet that was supposed to be grass, and it had okay quality, it had okay. But this, I was like, okay, we're like in the hills and forests of California, pretty obviously, and the costumes are good, They're not as great as maybe Return of the Jedi, but still pretty good. The monster I thought was fantastic.
The Gorax.
The Gorax I loved. That thing came on screen and I was like, what? Hold on. There are giants on Endor? Give me more of that. I think the Gorax might be my favorite part of the movie.
Cool.
I thought the design of it, and just like the fact that Ewoks have predators, that's pretty cool. I really liked all of the different Ewoks we got. It felt like a very classic 80s, adventure movie with like, okay, cool, we need the strongman, and we need the shaman, and we need the young plucky kid, and each of them get a special rock or a special, thing, which is fun. I also used to play the Star Wars mobile game, the Star Wars Heroes, if anybody's ever played that. It's a 5v5 Galaxy of Heroes.
Galaxy of Heroes, there you go.
And I didn't realize that all of the Ewoks from this movie are in that game, and I used to have them. I was like, wait, I know this strong guy. He does the jump thing. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, the lore is there. And just getting more Ewok lore I thought was really, really cool. I was pleasantly surprised by it. I will get into dislikes next, but in general, like I said, I didn't hate this movie, and I thought it was pretty fun.
Well, it's definitely healthy to be positive in this life, and I wish I could say the same. So, but I'll go into my positives. So the first thing from the jump, guys, if you're our age, the 20th Century Fox fanfare is how Star Wars starts. I didn't realize how much I missed the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as a kid, that was like, let's sit down, it's Star Wars time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a child, I didn't know that happened before other movies.
So much so, though, that on the original Star Wars, John Williams picked an older version of the fanfare to match the movie. So it is actually ingrained and chosen for Star Wars. So
yeah, they pulled it on the original theatrical release. They pulled a recording from like a 1930s. Oh gosh, it was some type of adventure movie.
Yeah,
I don't remember. But that was a jolt of nostalgia I did not expect.
Yeah.
But the first biggest positive, they got Burl Ives to be the narrator for this thing.
Yeah.
The guy that was the narrator for the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Other little positives, Yub Nub. That Yub Nub is part of their language. If you don't know, Yub Nub was the original song at the end of Return of the Jedi, and I am very happy that they changed it. Because at the end of the day,
fun.
It is very fun, but as the end of the saga, I don't think it was a Yub Nub. It's like, okay, let's have a galaxy spanning orchestral song. You know what I mean? Much better. But it was cute that it's a word in their language that we hear.
Yeah.
The actual practical hang glider stunt was pretty cool.
Yeah, that thing was
great.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. I really liked.
We were watching that point and we're like, that's real? Yeah, no, that's real. What?
Yeah. One of the things that in my research I saw that was something George like told them, we're going to do a practical hang glider stunt. Make it work. And they were like, what? Do it. They were like, okay. I really liked the stop motion wolf thing when it was in silhouette.
Yeah.
And then it got up close and I was like, oh, okay. But for 1984, that's probably pretty good motion capture.
Yeah. They even did like placing the people in front of it. Like it's
yes.
pretty advanced.
Yeah, for 1984 on TV, that's probably pretty good. I don't know because I wasn't conscious yet. But I can, similar to you, I can really appreciate the mythic quality of the, quote, fabled land from which no Ewok has ever returned. This is very much a D&D campaign in Star Wars. And I can appreciate that they each get, like you said, they each get their own magic item. You got your different character archetypes. You got your wizard, you got your barbarian, you got your whatever, and we're all going to go on an adventure to the land that no one's ever come back from. I thought that was cute. My last big I really liked the bit where they, I think it was the strong one, Chukatrok was his name, put the axe on his shoulder, and then the other one puts his axe on his shoulder, and they all just kind of put their axe on their shoulders and trying to like be cool. I thought that was cute. It was a fun little moment, and them is my positives. So moving into dislikes. I really do wish I had Zach's positive outlook on life, but I don't. But let's get your dislikes first.
Yeah, my biggest dislike, unfortunately, is the lead, Eric Walker.
Oh, man, I agree.
I just think he was maybe miscast, or I don't know. Like, it is hard to get a good kid actor, but like, you got to get a better one. Eat! Oh my God! She needs to eat. Eat!
I literally have that on here. And I'll talk about it on mine, but I don't know why he repeats everything he says.
Yeah, and I get it. He's like trying to communicate with these Ewoks who like are like, yeah, dude, calm down. But just a lot of, I mean, it's hard, right? You're a kid, but like a lot of unmotivated speaking. I thought the little girl was okay though. I thought she did an okay job. I mean, for how young she is in that movie. I thought she did a better job than Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I also dislike where this sits in the timeline.
Yes.
I looked it up, and it's supposed to be set before Return of the Jedi, which makes no sense. Why would they want to eat Han and Luke and literally have them like tied up, like swaying, like we're gonna roast them on fire, if they have met humans before and helped them find their parents? And why would Wicket be so curious about Leia and food and hat and like all of this other stuff if he had met somebody before? That's my biggest thing. If you had just said, hey, it comes place after, great, fantastic. But they, for some reason, it sits before Return of the Jedi, which makes no sense. That's probably my biggest dislike of the film. And yeah, I mean, like the parents were okay. Like it's just kind of some of the acting bits that were just, you know, a little bit hard to watch. Also the whole like water scene where he gets stuck under the water. You got to have a thing for Wicket to do, but like, why not give him something cooler than just like have a stick that pulls out people from a magic lake? They're like, hey, and the young one, we'll give him a stick, a walking stick that he could use to pull if they get trapped in this water. Okay. I guess that's a trap that other Ewoks have fallen in before, and they figured out how to get past it. But
I thought that was a pretty cool, inventive trap. That, spoilers, I was like, I'm going to steal that for D&D.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it is an inventive trap, but that whole sequence, I'm like, what? It
was dumb. Yeah.
But yeah, those are my dislikes. Matt, I would love to hear yours, and we'll
I got so many.
Some.
I got so many. So first off, anything spiders are in, that movie.
I saw the spiders, and I was watching it with Kai, and I was like, Matt's gonna hate this.
Now they didn't. They looked cool, right? They looked kind of. It was weird. It was that like they had like an alien head.
Yeah, they were
like a spider-ish
design-wise,
body. So I thought they
cool.
looked cool. But as soon as I saw the webs, I was like, "You're joking!" And then one did kind of just pop out, and I was like, "Ah, whoa!" But the dad's name is Jeremit, and I thought that was stupid. I thought it was gross that the gliders are skin gliders. Are you trying to tell me you made that? Yeah, but they called it "Get on your skin glider," and I was like, "That's disgusting." When he's on the skin glider, how did he find his children so quickly? They make a point of showing that he's flying over miles and miles of open forest and mountains, and he finds his children in like 3 seconds. I was like, what? That isn't... Anyway, also, the stupid parents didn't check inside the ship. They show that they find the ship, and they didn't think to check inside for their parents. I was like, are you kidding me?
But
like,
I will say, I think they weren't there at that moment, because they find her jacket, and the kid, like, comes back, you know?
But they make a point of saying, like, the kids are in, and so it's like, you didn't just walk inside. Also, I appreciated that, I gotta disagree. I thought both these kids were terrible at acting. I thought they were so bad. And Sindel was so whiny and hateable. I didn't like her at all. She was even bad at acting like she could cough. Like, she was like, it's like, what? You've had a cold in your life, child. That's not how humans cough. I was like,
she's like 5, Matt.
Still, man, like, I don't know, like, or do her some favors with the editing. Yeah. Like, get her to cough better.
Also, I would like to argue that Jeremit is not a bad name for Star Wars.
I thought it was
in the
dumb.
List of stupid names we've gotten in Star Wars. Savage Opress, I'm a gonna die,
hey,
Salacious Be Crumb.
Hey, his name is not I'm a gonna die. His name is I'm a Gundy.
Uh-huh. Porkins.
I'm a Gundy.
Porkins.
There's definitely dumb names. I'm not trying to say they're not dumb names, but you can't tell me that Jeremit wasn't dumb.
In the list of dumb names, not that bad.
Also, I did think it was weird that this kid gets to share a name with Mace Windu. They named him Mace. I was like, huh.
That was before
George.
Mace Windu.
I know, but George only has so many ideas at the end of the day. Also, he was probably like, whatever. Nobody's seen that Ewok movie, so I'm going to name him Mace. But I would like to propose a drinking game. Okay. Same one that you did. Every time Mace repeats something, and you will get trashed. Eat, food. I think he says those words 25 times, and that's eat, food. She needs more medicine. And then the first time we meet Jeremit, he repeats something. So I was like, okay, maybe that's just the way he learned to speak. Maybe it was intentional. Also, Mace had some of the stupidest lines I've seen in a movie. Come on, Sindel, get an IQ. I wish I was the best kid there ever was. And the kicker, I will be mom and dad. And I laughed. I lost. Oh my! At that point, I was like, I'm out. I can't. And I thought the Ewok babies looked terrible.
Oh, they look pretty. Like, I think it's the same prop.
It's not, I promise you, or they lit it terribly. One of their faces was, like, imploded, and it looked like a baseball mitt with eyes. I laughed a lot. Well, I couldn't find a picture, and I can't take screen grabs off Disney Plus because they've got it blocked. Yeah. Screenshots, whatever. But I laughed. I thought they looked like nightmares. It was very funny. Did we really need the horse chase sequence? Or was it just to fill time?
I will say the horse sequence, you can totally tell when the Ewok goes from a smaller actor to a full-grown man on a horse.
Yes.
But I will say I really liked that they used a Clydesdale for the main horse to make everybody look so small and make your regular horses look like ponies, you know? I will say, okay, if you redo this script, redo the dialogue, and hire some better actors, I think this movie could have worked better.
Sure, I mean, like most... That's a good point. Like most George Lucas run Star Wars things, the story is not bad.
Yeah.
From like 30,000 feet, you're like, cute. This could totally work.
I will say, though, I am mom and dad is such a George Lucas line. Like,
I will be mom and dad. That's fair.
I am your father. I will be mom and dad.
But instead he says it like he's like it's a profound thing. I will be mom and dad. Yeah. It's like...
No, it made me laugh too.
But then the lightning bug sequences. like
I
the
thought that
wispy.
was actually
I was
kinda
like,
cool.
come on. But it's so much. Also, it's like, bro, quit trying to make the wispy your girlfriend. Like, she's a lightning bug. It's weird. I don't know. I could have done without that. But them's all my dislikes.
All
So
right.
it's not like I went on for a long time.
No, you just don't like the movie.
I did not. No. But discussion points, further things to talk about. Zach, you got anything?
Yeah. Did you think that we would see deserts on, or other biomes on the planet of Endor? Because I didn't.
I didn't. I thought it's a weird thing. George was always very intentional with, as silly as it is, planets were pretty much the same. But at the same time, it bears mentioning, on Kashyyyk, we saw it on the holiday special, where it was a tree planet, and then in episode 3, there's oceans and stuff.
That's true.
So, not unheard of, but a rarity.
Yeah.
George tried to make all of his planets look very distinct.
I also thought it was interesting that it's supposed to be a moon, right? The forest moon of Endor.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I guess moons can be pretty big, but like to have the other biomes, I thought that I did bump into that a little bit. But other discussion points. When do you think we're going to see the Gorax back? Because I'm here for it.
So, there's actually a Forces of Destiny episode.
Oh, really?
If you ever watched that show, that picks up immediately, or it's like at some point after the Battle of Endor, Return of the Jedi, where Luke and Leia haven't left yet, and Luke and Leia help the Ewoks fight off a Gorax.
Cool.
Goraxes were something that I think it was a George idea. Yes, it was, because there was a point where they were going to be in Return of the Jedi, and it was going to describe how the Ewoks have those traps that they use against the walkers, that they've had to construct these giant traps to use against giants.
Yeah.
So it was always something that was intended to be there, and they had to cut it. There's a Ralph McQuarrie painting that I'll try to find of a giant thing like creeping in on the treehouse. So it was always there, always baked into the planet of Endor.
Yeah. Well, the Gorax might be my Halloween costume this year.
And then I'll be an Ewok, and it'll work out.
And the size will be the same, too.
I was going to say, it'll work out just right. So, do you got other discussion points?
No, I think the Gorax, was the thing I was really the most impressed with. Because that thing came out, and I was instantly like, okay, cool. Cool new Star Wars monster that I've never seen before that looks like 100% a Star Wars monster. You know, it's not a modern, version of a spider or something. It is, completely unique and cool.
Yeah.
You have any discussion points?
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting that we went from seeing, I think, maybe one bird in Return of the Jedi to this Endor has llamas, goats, ponies, ferrets, and chickens. And they don't look Star Wars-y. They're just straight up, that's a llama.
Yeah.
That's a goat. That's a ferret.
Yeah.
And I get this very much we're telling a traditional fantasy story. It's very much in the same vein as Willow, right? But I just thought it was odd.
Yeah.
Did you bump up against that?
I did bump up against it a little bit. It's like give the chicken a second beak or something, make it just slightly different.
Yeah.
I also bumped up with them being on the ground floor.
That was my next one. I was like, Ewoks live in the trees. They don't live on the ground.
But then we got the shaman guy, the leader in the tree. And
Logray.
Logray, yeah. In the tree, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that makes sense. We're going to say that this is the special place where the Ewoks go. And I get that for the sake of probably keeping production costs low, this was a made-for-TV thing. Yeah. It's like, guys, we're just going to put a couple huts on the ground and not have to be on sets every day. But, so closing thoughts.
I have one more discussion point. No,
hit it.
How tired must that horse have been to carry a whole house on its back?
Yes. That's real. That's real. But it's something that they could have done in Lord of the Rings, and it would have kept the little people from having to walk that much. Put them on a horse.
They did. They rode horses for part of it.
At the beginning.
Yeah, but then you gotta be stealthy.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, all right, so closing thoughts for the Caravan of Courage, our second retro review for the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got, Zach?
Better than holiday special for me. Some really cool production stuff. Basic story is there. Needs some rewrites and some recasting, and we could be cooking. You know, we'll send me your next draft, Lucasfilm, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. So I also think it is better than the holiday special. So as of right now, on the Force of Others award for the worst Star Wars film, the holiday special is still reigning supreme. We still got the Ewok Battle for Endor to watch, and then we will have seen every Star Wars film.
Isn't there one more? I think there's one more.
It's just the two.
Oh, really?
Now there's the Ewok show and there's the Droids show. Fun fact, I tried to watch a Droids episode a couple weeks ago and I did not finish. But so we have given you our review for the Caravan of Courage. We've talked about how it is not the worst Star Wars film ever made. But here's the thing. Like I just talked about, this movie got a sequel. So all I'm saying is this. If Caravan of Courage can get a sequel, The Acolyte can get a season 2.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're bringing the spice today. We're
hot takes.
Hot takes the episode. Hot takes in episode 30. I think in the interest of time, let's keep... we got a story to talk about with Daniel Logan and Mace Windu, but I think let's do that for next week, and let's dive into the mailbag, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
So first, I have a question basically exclusively for Zach.
Yeah.
This is from friend of the show, Brian Lawson. Where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
Yeah.
Which, the thing about it is, that's a Lord of the Rings question, which means I'm like, what is this?
So, if you don't know, because you're listening to a Star Wars podcast, at one point, Aragorn and the King of Rohan are talking, and he's like, we could go to Gondor for aid. He goes, where was Gondor when the Westwood fell?
So where were they, Zach? Tell us.
They were fighting Sauron. You know? They were fighting across the river. I found somebody who broke it down a little bit easier than my knowledge. The Westfold is the western plains of Rohan. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas cross it while chasing the Uruk-hai. Although largely open fields, Rohan had lots of farming villages throughout its lands. So he's talking about, like, you know, when Saruman, like, sends, like, the people and the Uruk-hai to, like, basically destroy these different lands. And he's like, where was Gondor when we needed help? But yeah, so that's where he's asking. But he also didn't light the beacons and ask for help because he was a creepy old man being poisoned by Saruman in his mind. So yeah, he's just being prideful and can't ask for help. But he also thinks that Gondor would be too proud. It's a whole geopolitical situation where they're both kingdoms of men, but they kind of clash a little bit. You're laughing, but we talk about this way about Star Wars, man.
I know, it's just funny. Because I don't know, don't be knowing nothing about the Lord of the Rings.
Also,
outside of I have seen them.
That actor was left out of the in memoriam.
Yes, that was actually very sad.
At the Oscars, and I think that's very sad. And so we will, just a little in memoriam for the King of Rohan. Also, the captain of the Titanic, the actor was Bernard Hill. So just a little shout out.
Rest in peace, Bernard Hill.
Yeah.
Shout out. I did not watch the Oscars because I'm not interested, but I saw that, and that made me mad. So, but anyway, so there's our thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Force of Others became the Force of Rings for a moment, but you know, Zach's birthday
the
is
rings
approaching,
of others.
so we're gonna. Zach's birthday is approaching, so we're gonna give him some Lord of the Rings presents.
There were three rings for the Elven Kings under the sky. 7 for the Dwarf Lords and their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, and millions for our listeners on the Rings of Others podcast.
Well, if you want to do that one, I mean, I'm not gonna stop you, but I don't know that I'll be part of that experience. But as for our last question, last thing on the show today, hit us with this, Zach.
Yeah, from a friend and family of the podcast, Mark Bortner. What is a legend, story, or character you wish to see in the Disney canon, or what is your headcanon? What legend story is in your Disney headcanon, I think is what that is asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
I think we've talked about something like this before.
We have, but it comes up from time to time, and I'm going to have a different answer every time. So, there's if you don't know, if you have a life, just real quick, difference between Legends and canon. Legends was all of extended continuity, books, comics, novels, video games from 1977 up through 2014. It didn't always work as a cohesive canon, but it was there. Zach, can you see me? The whole thing has frozen.
Yes, I can see you.
Okay,
You're
cool.
frozen, but I can. You're back.
Okay, hopefully that's all there. Either way, that was extended continuity, and so it wasn't always a cohesive canon really at all. And George always said that I won't acknowledge it when I make more movies, and he never did. But what story would you like to take from Legends and put into canon? There's a bunch of ones that I would love to, but I discovered one recently that I forgot to talk about in my Star Wars weeks. I started reading an old comic that I've gotten highly, highly, highly recommended to me all over the internet and by other Star Wars friends, called Star Wars Republic. And it was the Star Wars ongoing comic that was just called Star Wars up until issue 46, which came out in 2002 after Star Wars Episode 2 had came out, and then it got rebranded Star Wars Republic. This was part of the Clone Wars multimedia project, which was the Legends version of the Clone Wars that then got completely overwritten by Dave Filoni's Clone Wars cartoon and making a lot of people mad, and I like the cartoon better. But, so, anyway, as for the story that I would put in, Star Wars, the first story of Star Wars Republic is this little, really intimate, really small 3-issue story called Honor and Duty. And it's from the point of view of these Republic guards, the blue-robed guys. And it's very much like a cop story. Yeah. Anakin and Obi-Wan are in this story, but they're not the main characters. And this story, it is very, very intimate, it's very small, it's very heavy. But it ties into how this family falls apart because of some political dealings and everything else. And there's this guy that just wants to stand for the Republic. He's kind of the main character. He wants to hold up their values. He doesn't like the Jedi. He doesn't like the politicians, but he likes what the Republic stands for. And by the end of the comic, the Separatist movement has, this 3-issue story, the Separatist movement has begun, and it is directly affected by what happens to this family. And he loses all faith with the Republic as it dives into the Clone Wars. It's kind of a slow story, but the last couple, the last 10 pages or so of that 3rd issue really affected me, and it could still totally work with canon. You get a Palpatine cameo because he's always at work, so there's my long pitch for a kind of obscure story. But Star Wars Republic issues 46 through 48, Honor and Duty is the name of the story. That, as of right now, that's what I would want to put in canon, and it's in my head canon. So, Zach, do you have an answer for a character or story that you'd bring over from Legends?
I do. I have a couple. So I'm just.
Cool.
I imagine we'll get this question again and talk about it again. So my current one, which I just found out actually appeared in Dr. Aphra, Dirge.
Yeah.
I want the Clone Wars Dirge though from the
2D.
Yeah, the 2D Gendy Clone Wars Dirge, because I thought he was cool and alien, and I just realized he was also in frickin' the Star Wars game, a version of Dirge.
Galaxy of Heroes again?
No. In Jedi Fallen.
Jedi Survivor.
Survivor.
Yeah.
Well,
the Jedi is the name of the species.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I want
shape-shifting, like, superhumans.
Yeah, but I want, like, full-on Dirge from Gender Clone Wars. Like,
Well, I got good news for you.
yeah.
Dirge shows up in the Dr. Aphra comics in the most recent run.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I just found out that he's
okay.
there, but I didn't realize that, so I gotta catch up on Dr. Aphra.
Now, I don't know if he's as overpowered as he is on the Gender Clone Wars. It might not be the same.
Probably not.
But they did bring him into canon, so he's running around sliming everywhere.
But because he is in canon, I will go with my second one, which I want a version
I know what he's reading
of Mara Jade. I think Mara Jade is a cool freaking character. She doesn't have to be married to Luke Skywalker and have his kids. She is a cool character without her relationship to Luke. A Palpatine apprentice, Sith assassin during the original trilogy. Yeah, you can make her Inquisitor. You could pop her into. You could bring a version of her into the sequel trilogy as well, and she doesn't have to have anything to do with Luke if she's just cool badass assassin with cool red hair, and all of her other character abilities. But
I highly recommend, and we will probably do this. But I highly recommend, Zach, reading the original Thrawn trilogy from Legends. I didn't say to bring that into canon because it wouldn't all work now.
Yeah.
But if you like Mara Jade, you should read her first stories.
Yeah.
It is good stuff. I'll because I think you haven't read those.
I
right?
haven't. No, I honestly all I know from her is like people who have read the books and told me about it, and I've been like, oh, that's cool. Wait, no, that's cool. And then like
one
stuff
of my
I've read
favorite.
On the internet.
This is a mild spoiler for one of the books in the original Thrawn trilogy. I don't remember which book this is from. But Luke is having visions of who he doesn't know is Mara Jade. And he can sense that things are off, and so he ends up traveling back to the cave on Dagobah. And he experiences a vision of, we go right back to Return of the Jedi, of him standing on the skiff about to jump into the Sarlacc pit. He gives R2 the salute. He jumps down, springs back up, reaches up to pull the lightsaber to his hand, and someone else has pulled the lightsaber, and it's Mara Jade, and she's caught it, and she's just laughing as Luke gets gunned down. And before meeting her, the Force is telling him what would have happened had she been able to be there. Because do you know how she initially relates to Luke Skywalker?
Isn't
now I'm
she
just trying to sell you.
a clone of him?
No, so she was what was known as the Emperor's Hand.
Yes.
She has a psychic link to Emperor Palpatine, and the last thing that Palpatine did before he died was he gave her the last command of that life was like it was either destroy or kill Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
And so every moment of her life, because he's dead and he wasn't able to ever say anything else, she has that just on repeat in her head. She has burned into her mind the image of Palpatine screaming in his last moments and just sending her that last command, kill Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. And
then one of the things that happens in the trilogy is she has to ally with him, and she's just hearing that command over and over and over and over again. And Luke's like, "Why do you hate me?" And she's like, "Shut up." So there's our Mara Jade Legends deep dive. But yeah, I think that would be you could do all of that stuff and never get to their eventual romance.
Yeah.
And the character could easily be canonized. You could just do that story, and I think that would be really cool. And there was a rumor that they're going to do it as a TV show. Now, who knows, because these rumors come and go, but
yeah,
I think they should.
I think it'd be cool.
So, okay, you got anything else you want to try and canonize, or are we done?
I think we'll save some other legends for another day,
Yeah. We'll save other legends to be treated as legends like Kathleen Kennedy for other episodes. But we did it, episode 30. Hope you are enjoying this podcast. We are too. But Zach, let the people know where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you in the show.
Yeah, the best way to find me or the show is by emailing us, forceofothersradio@gmail.com, or commenting on the comments of this YouTube video, this podcast, this Instagram video, maybe, depending on where this clip ends up. But reach out to us. We love to hear your thoughts, and hopefully we'll get to some interviews again soon, as that is what we're focused on is
what we do.
you.
Yeah.
Matt, where can they find you?
Well, lately, I've been tweeting a lot on the show account. And, while suffice it to say, there's a lot of Imperial troops in the base on Twitter, on the website formerly known as Twitter. There's a lot of really positive Star Wars people that we're starting to have some nice conversations with.
Good.
And so you can reach out to us there, just at Force of Others. Same thing like Zach said, Instagram, and email us, forceofothersradio@gmail.com, and we will do all of the things. We have lots of special plans for this Star Wars feast in April, and for Friday, June 6th, otherwise known as 6/6, Order 66, the day, which is wild. 20th anniversary of Episode 3. A episode of this podcast is going to drop on Order 66 Day.
Yeah.
I am excited about that. We're going to have something special. We hope you're enjoying the show. We're enjoying doing it. But in the meantime, stay legendary. Go watch the Caravan of Courage. And remember, the force of others will be with you.
Always. The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.